What is up, good people? Let's get rid of this. What is going on? Let's um, let's see. Give some time for folks to jump on in, hang out for a bit, talk about some cool stuff we have coming up. So that'll be great. Hope everyone's doing good. What is going on? Where is my Let me add this. And let's go ahead and put that there. So let me know in the comments, branch of service, time you served, if you are rated. Indubitably, it's when I do my best work. Indeed. What is up, good folks? Let's see, got Sandra is in the building. Yes, indeed. What's going on, everybody? We are live in a few different places, so talking a little bit about everything. Let's see. Dun 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 dun. Let's see. Yeah, we are live. Ron's in the building. We got Sam starting trouble already with Apple versus other Android devices. Gotta love it. Team Apple is in the building. So let's see what is up on TikTok side of the house. What's going on, Liney? Let's see. 11 Bravo in the building. Let's see. 60%, 97 to 06. Very cool. Very cool. So a little bit of everywhere. So that works pretty good. Reggie's in the building. If you're in the group, let's see. Reggie's in the building in the Facebook group. Joel, what's going on, my brother? Let's see. We are. It comes out this way, so it has kind of like one of those things, I guess, where you could click to. There's like a link that had. Oh no, they didn't have the link actually, so disregard that. So I just have it open so I can see who's from the group. But what is going on? We got TikTok in the building. Yeah. Gonna touch a little bit on some of that as well. So that'll be handy. I see Andy over on TikTok. So advice on supplemental claims. Yes, have a little bit of that we will be talking about and sharing as well. So that'll be coming in handy. What's up, everybody else? Let's see. We got Facebook crew is in the building. Joel, we got Afghanistan 11 to 2012. All right. Very cool. Very cool. I can't bring up the comments on the TikTok side of the house, but I see you nonetheless. So that is quite all right. But it is good to see everyone. Going to share a little bit about what we're doing. So just kind of letting some folks log on in and join us. So that'll be kind of cool. Got some of the team helping out. So they're answering some questions and helping out as well. So that'll be kind of cool. So I'll be kind of going back and forth. So for some of the questions, we need a little context. What about, let's say, like supplemental claims? Well, did you get denied? What do we claim? What are we looking at? So, you may have some questions we'll push back only to be able to better answer some of the questions that are being asked. So we want to make sure that we are answering your questions appropriately. Let's see. Thanks for answering my question earlier. You're very welcome. That's what it is all about. So glad that was helpful. Let's see. Alrighty. So a few things. We are kicking off our Nexus workshop the following Saturday, so the 25th. That's kicking off. You may have seen the banner and some of the things that we've been putting up on social media. So really excited about that. I'm going to share a little bit about that today, and really invite you all to start to look into this wonderful course that took some time to put together. We believe it will give a lot of value for sure. So I've been into the claims space since 2017. I've worked with, so I'm a disabled Army combat veteran, a disabled Army combat veteran. I've been in the VA space, VA claims space since about 2017. I'm also a medically retired first responder, so I worked in federal law enforcement and then taught. And then from there, I actually worked with a few companies that are in the business, saw what they were doing, worked with them, some of the bigger names that are out there, private companies and so forth, and then went off to do our own thing. So that's one of those things where we saw a need to set up our organization, specifically to you, Jane, asking a question. And that's what we've been doing at Veterans Network Champions Club. So, nope, not accredited BSO, a rep, private organization. So we're not prosecuting, presenting, or preparing because that can be done pretty easily. So we're actually filling another void, which other folks are not talking about. Specifically today, we're talking about Nexus, letters, and the workshop that we have coming up. So in this space, specifically, we'll start looking at things like, so one of the questions was, like right now, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we are on YouTube and a few other places, and a lot of good questions that are coming across the board. And at the end of the day, it is a need that we are filling. So we are solving that problem the way that we wish somebody would have done for us without the red tape. And at the end of the day, I think when you look at our situation with so many veterans that are underrated, unaware, like the last video I put up, you have all these issues at the VA. Not only are now the OIG report that I put the video up talk about the 68% decision rating failure, but then we also have now needless examinations that are happening and all these issues in the system. So sometimes the system is broken. It's one of those things where it just is what it is. And, you know, literally we have a plethora of folks that have reached out in so many ways over the years. So long story short, been in the space for quite a bit of time since that's one of the questions that came up. So appreciate the crew for answering questions. I'm kind of jumping back and forth. Let's see. Let's get right to it. But let's see. For those that don't know, our website over at veteransnetwork.club is where we have our team. You can kind of see a little bit about us, what we do, who we are, etc., and so forth. So a lot of good information there. And I'll also be sharing the link to the workshop that we have coming up. So that's going to be also in the link in my bio for those that are watching across in different places. So you can all take a look at that if you're on TikTok or social media. I'll post a link on Facebook. I think it's on Facebook as well. And then on LinkedIn, I have to post it there also. So a few different places. All right. With that being said and done, let me try to catch up here. Let's see. Trying to see which in the Facebook group I can't see your name just the way because we're multi-streaming. So Joe, okay. Let's see. The best answer is correct. Yes, I agree. Alrighty. So okay, I see you, Sandra, as well. So let me start getting to some of these questions. Yes, we are the best. Not a question. I agree. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Joel says you are on day shift, can't attend on call. Okay. Yeah, we'll make sure we get that to you too, Joel. So there'll be a replay and as well. So don't worry too much about that for sure. Let's see here. Shout out to you, Liney Words. Let's see on the supplemental claim side of the house. So specifically, what are we looking at, right? You have instances where, for those that don't know, one of the biggest differences that came into play is the Appeals Modernization Act. So before appeals would take forever, you'd have folks thinking years and years are on end. Now with the Appeals Modernization Act, one of the greatest things that came about is the fact that the veteran is in position to be able to argue and push back on a denial. So you have instances where you can go for a higher level or you can go for a supplemental claim. Now here's the thing, if you're going supplemental, we're adding new things. So it really depends on the nature of the denial. If there are some things that are missing from the claim, a high-level review may not be it because you're asking for another pair of eyes, another rater to look at it, basically. And in some instances, that may not be what is needed because, hey, it got denied because it was missing something. So consider 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 will never be 5. So if you're missing something, that's going to be a problem. So that's the first part. Secondary to that is if you're looking at a supplemental claim, now we're looking at something was missing, we're going to add to it, right? So what exactly is it the VA said specifically? Is it an instance where the service connection is lacking? Is it an instance where they recognize that you have a disability, but you're missing certain things, right? So a little bit of context there for that question that came up. So, and especially in the VA claim space, it's one of those things where there's just a lot of information, sadly, all over the place. One good story I heard, I don't know if you guys ever heard it before, but it's about a chicken and the bull. So you may have heard. And it specifically talks about a chicken chatting with a bull in some shape, fashion, or form. The chicken says, it'll be nice to climb the tree and sit on a branch, but I don't have enough energy, says the chicken. So the bull looks at the chicken, says, perhaps if you nibble on some of my droppings, right, you'll be able to get stronger because they're packed with nutrients. And so the chicken kind of signs on and says, great, I'm all in for it. And after a while, he begins to get stronger, begins to climb. And the bull gives him a little bit more, and the chicken begins to climb some more. The chicken eats some more, he climbs some more. So eventually, after getting stronger and stronger over time, he gets to the top of the branch, and wouldn't you know it, that the farmer spots the chicken and eventually mistakes the chicken for a wild turkey and shoots the chicken. Moral of the story there being simply, bullshit can help you rise to the top, but it sure as hell won't keep you there. So when it comes to this space, be careful where you're getting your information from, because it's not a cookie cutter situation, right? What worked for someone just because they did it that way doesn't apply to you. It's like medical care. What is one person's protocol may not work for somebody else. There are a lot of different variables that come into play specifically when we're looking at things like this. So there's the chicken and the bull story for you. So let's see. On the supplemental question, that was one there. See, advice receiving benefits for spouse after divorce, even after submitting paperwork. Okay. I think I'm trying to catch up here. It's got active due December. So one of the things that also has happened is the Appeals Modernization. Appeals Modernization Act. The PAC Act, for example, has added a huge amount of backlog to the situation. So the timelines that they give, usually, let's say it's like 104 and change days on average. But now you have so many claims that are going in on top of regular claims and backlog. Then you have the PAC Act. And then you have the VA that's short-staffed, doesn't have enough people to actually go and keep up with these things. So it adds to a whole nother layer of complexities and issues when you look at the fact that, hey, I had a CMP in December, I haven't heard anything yet. Well, that's kind of what's happening, sadly, when it was par for course because of the delays, because of what's happening now. So one of the things to keep in mind is that there is more delays going on right now. There is a backlog, and that's happening across the board. So we're literally seeing it in so many ways with so many vets. So to the person specifically asking about, their CMP that took place in January, really it's hard to kind of gauge, right? Because you have instances where someone might have a CMP on a certain time, and in a matter of, I've seen days, I've seen someone a CMP on a Monday with a decision on a Friday. Conversely, months. Conversely, many months, right? So a lot of things go into that. Also, what kind of claim, what goes into it, how complex, what's going on. Is it a PTSD thing? Are they verifying things? Is there a records request? Are there things that the rater needs to be able to make a proper decision, right? Some things are pretty straightforward and easy, and some claims are pretty complex. So in your case, let's say departing active duty, how many claims went into your claim? Because you could have a bunch of things in there, and they may, let's say, decide something, defer other things. So there's many ways that can kind of go. So just a heads up on that. Let's see here. Want to show you all real quick something too, as I catch up on some other questions. Also, for those in the chat, wherever you were at, let me know what branch of service you were in, and let me know the times that you served for those that are joining us now. So definitely want to make sure that we address that and say what's up to you good people. So let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. I want to bring up something here real quickly as I see some of the questions coming by. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Okay, let's see. Do, 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 do. Got a few. All right, so that answers that questions there for the active duty person there. Let me go back here for a second. And I want to bring up our website for those that may not know how to get there. So you have the ability to kind of check us out and see what we are doing on that side of the house. So let me just position this and bring that up. So for those not aware, this is our website over at veteransnetwork.club. What's up there on? So I just wanted to show you all how to kind of get there. Let me give you a quick rundown. When you go to veteransnetwork.club, on the top banner there, you will see, link in bio, the workshop that we are hosting. So you can get more information there. And we're literally going over the details there. I'll show you some other stuff as well and talk about it. But this is a great workshop that we're doing. This is the Nexus letter, the keys to winning your VA claim. And we begin to go through the process of speaking about this in so many different ways. So for those that don't know, links in the bio, or you can go to veteransnetwork.club, get some more information. Also, you can look around, meet the team, and so forth. So I always encourage that because it's kind of cool to see who are the folks behind the scenes. So that's one of the things there that I definitely want to hit on. And I'm also going to kind of give a little previews of some stuff there. But specifically to the workshop, a lot of the questions that are coming up, we have veterans that, one of the biggest things I will say is we want to make a point to put this workshop together because folks just don't really understand what exactly is a Nexus letter. What is a medical opinion? You have folks that are paying between $500 and $2,000 for a Nexus letter. They ask questions, they get feedback. I'll tell you a quick story of a veteran that went to one of these private organizations that do Nexus letters and got the runaround for quite a few months. The veteran asked some questions to kind of figure out, okay, what exactly is it this Nexus letter is going to do, or what exactly is the process? And you'd be surprised that there was a whole lot of pushback and a whole lot of, well, we work with some professionals and so forth, and we don't have to answer these questions, et cetera, et cetera. And that's all she wrote. And I find that to be a little disingenuous when you start to look at the fact that you're paying for a service because maybe you may have lacking medical evidence. You may have instances where, let's say, your medical proof is not there completely, right? So one of the things that we talk about a lot, right? And again, this will be something we'll expand on as well in the class. I talk about the Kaluza triangle, right? You may have seen me talk about it quite a bit. And this is when we start looking at some of the things that are required for service connection. So specifically to this workshop, it's understanding that you may have a current diagnosis and you may have an in-service incident. Sometimes people do not. Sometimes there's no records in service. But the point is, how do we connect that? So the longer you've been out of service, the harder it gets. And to give some context, because the question always comes up, is it too late to file a claim? And the reality is no, that's not true because it really takes into effect a few different things. I could tell you, Lofton, Brian, for example, was in the chat, waited 26 years to file his claim. Instances where we have things like Dennis, for example, took him 50 years to file a claim. And we're helping a veteran now who's a World War II veteran who's 95 years old. And when you start to look at how do you solve that problem, right, there's a few things that have to go into that, right? So I'm saying this to say that we have to understand how do we establish service connection. The further we went out of service, it doesn't mean it becomes difficult, especially when you're looking at complex claims, things like mental health, et cetera. So when it's all said and done, you may have, let's say, some supporting evidence, and you may have, let's say, somebody writing you a letter, but having a medical opinion. How does your doctor, who maybe wants to work with you, how do they get a point or make a point to argue something effectively for you? What are the things that actually are going to hold weight in a Nexus letter? So before, let's say, you choose to go to your doctor, because again, many veterans do not understand the process. So it's almost like the blind leading the blind. You don't understand service connection. You don't understand really why the VA denied you. So how do you explain to your doctor the help that you need? Think about that for a second, right? So you may reach out to some of these organizations, but if you don't even know what right looks like, that's a problem, right? So part of the concept of having this workshop that we're doing, which again is what you saw on the thumbnail, is really talking about how do we actually equip veterans to make informed decisions. How do we make a point to actually talk about things? So on our side of the house, right, when we start to look at, what this is, right? Yes, it's a workshop where we're going to be talking in detail about things like Nexus letters and so forth. But then how do we break it down? So there's more that's going to go into this, and also having a workbook that goes with it. So if you've ever been denied for a VA claim, let me know in the comment section. Have you been denied? That's the first question, as I catch up with some more of the comments. Thanks, Brian, for holding it down on this side. Let's see. Okay, check on that. Capital Austin. Pretty much outside of having something grievous that would actually warrant them to review you again, you're pretty much good to go. Just keep up with your care and so forth. Took away my, that doesn't, sleep insomnia. Not so much, Andy. So you could have an instance where, what did they give you for sleep insomnia? Did they actually rate you for that? Because it could be an instance where they just change the label. So you can have someone who has anxiety, then let's say they go for depression. You can, is permitting, so you're going to have an instance where you're going to have more than one mental health condition. And I'll pull the CFR up for that too to show you all too. Let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. Yeah, 100%, Jane. Let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. Yes. Let's see. Bum, 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 bum. All right, I'm just catching up here real quickly. Appreciate everybody hanging out. We got some folks all across. Let's see real quickly on the Facebook group how we're looking. So as we catch up there, let's see. Adam, appreciate you, brother. Let's see. Adam's in the building. Joel's in the building. What's going on, good people? Appreciate y'all for sure. Okay, so we got that. So this is, again, one of the questions we're asking as far as have you been denied because it was, not service connected, right? This is some of the things that we're going to be looking to solve specifically. So let me go ahead and move this. And one of the cool things too is we got that. So there's also, and I'll probably give a preview here in a second. So don't tell people I showed you too much. But I'll show you also the page to go to, but the link's in the bio. So you can kind of go there and get some more information as well. But a workbook as well that comes with it, and really understanding as we go through the course and how we answer questions and go through this whole concept, not only for a veteran to understand the Nexus letter process, but also helping a veteran understand if you were to go to your provider, how to have them help you, and having templates in there as well. So that's one of the biggest questions, right? Is there a template or something I can use? Yeah, there's going to be some templates in there that we're going to make a point to also show. So let me jump back on this side of the house. I see, just wrote yep. And the biggest thing there, Faith, again, is hey, if you have the key elements that are in there, let me know how that works out for you as far as writing that letter. So I think that's dope that you're able to help and do that for them there. Let's see, Cheryl, they've been treating me for no percent. So yeah, Cheryl Brooks. So that's a good question. That's a good point, actually. So you've been treated for mental health and the background of things. And I will say specifically, when you're looking at VA care, right, this is one of the biggest issues that actually many veterans do not understand. There's a difference between the VHA and BVA. Specifically, when we're talking VHA, the Veterans Health Administration, that's very different from the BVA, the Veterans Benefit Administration. The reason I'm making a point to say that is because you can be treated by the VA for, let's say, mental health, like you asked the question, Cheryl, but that doesn't mean you're going to get rated. That doesn't mean you're automatically going to get that. So to put it in context, think about Medicare and SSDI, Social Security, right? You're not going to get Social Security disability just because you're on Medicare. It doesn't work that way, right? They're both government programs, obviously, but there's different requirements. So getting healthcare is one thing, but having a disability rating, disability compensation, having a rating and so forth, that's a whole nother conversation, right? So the path to get there, though, one thing we have to understand is, like, let's reset the whole conversation. when we're looking at a VA disability, we have to understand you don't have a disability until you have a diagnosis, right? Without a diagnosis, you're not going to get very far. That's one of the reasons I brought up here, for example, on the Kaluza triangle. Let me go ahead and bring that down. One of the main things here to consider is, um, thanks, Jane. You have a diagnosis, right? Because the question sometimes begs to be asked. Well, I went to sick call one time, and what can I file for? Well, no, let's not look at that, right? If you take nothing away from this, take away two things. One, we have a kick-ass Nexus letter workshop going on the 25th of March. Links in bio. Sign up. It'll be good. Invite a friend. Secondary to that is when we're looking at disabilities, you have to understand that it's not about just, hey, I complained about something. It's not about what happened to you in service. It's about what's happening to you now. It's not just about what you experience. It's about what lingers today. It's not so much the things that, affected you then. It's about what's affecting you now. And that's something that we have to fundamentally understand, because if we are looking at the fact that we may have complained about headaches at some point or back pain at some point or whatever it may have been in service, that's fine. But now, where is the diagnosis now? Where are we today? Is that something we're dealing with? And for many veterans, obviously, we don't go to the doctor, we don't seek help. But if we're going to have a conversation about VA disability, you have to build up the medical evidence. It's a disability is nothing more than a medical condition that has risen to the level of a disability. I'll say it again. A disability is nothing more than a medical condition that has risen to the level of a disability. So if that's fundamentally something we understand, that begins to help us craft an argument. And this is something that it's not just, hey, and again, I'm not against whatever it is that works for you, whoever, you choose to do business with, or however you choose to do that. But before you even get to the point of filing a claim or what can I file for, take inventory of what you're dealing with. Because for some veterans, it's not about the back condition or the disc condition. For some veterans that have experienced traumatic events, it's about those things you've put away that you've never dealt with. And when someone says, just tell your truth and talk about it, well, how do you do that? It's like saying, well, just go in a ring and just jab, jab, hook, uppercut. If you've never been in the ring, if you've never done the jab, you're going to get knocked out. You don't understand how to tell your story. The VA is flawed and broken. We talked about that. The last video I put up, 68%, the OIG September made a report, and they put out the fact that in 68% of their statistical claims that they pulled, there were errors. And now a new one just came out from the VA talking specific, the OIG rather, talk about needless reevaluation. So the system itself is broken. That's just a fact. Like it or hate it, it is what it is, right? There's some good, but there's some bad. So if the system is broken and the veteran doesn't understand the process, how do you tell your story? How do you can't have operator error and system error. So the VA is going to deny you if you don't understand how to articulate certain key elements required for your claim. So understanding we have to have a diagnosis, that's the first part, right? I may have complained in service. I may have not complained in service. Even if you did not complain in service, that does not mean that you cannot win your claim. There's case law out there specifically talking about instances where a veteran's, let's say, record could be silent on certain things, but that doesn't mean they don't have issues. For many of us, we come from the school of hard knocks. Suck it up and drive on, change your socks, take Motrin. But we have to talk about why we haven't talked about certain things, because you have Vietnam veterans who literally did not come back the same, Korean War veterans who did not come back the same. And you may not remember anything about what's happening to you in your life right now, but you remember those days vividly. The day that incident happened, that accident happened, that assault happened, what have you. And if that's something that applies, especially when talking about mental health, that is huge. So we have to have a diagnosis. We have to be able to point to service where something may have happened, right? How it happened, etc. And then once we have those two elements there, that's where the nexus comes in. The longer we've been out of service, the harder it becomes, because think about it, right? Is your back condition, migraine, or what have you, a result of service? Well, if you just got out of service last week, then yeah, that's kind of pretty obvious. But if you've been out of service 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, not impossible, but the nexus becomes stronger. So nexus just means connection. So if we're going to look at how do we make these arguments now to the VA, how do we make a point to have our, let's say, medical providers write a letter for us to help us make the argument, because we've all seen it. Like, who here has literally been to the doctor and the doctor, excuse me, looks at you and says, you know what, DP, the way your back is set up, man, you must have been either falling off of trucks, jumping out of planes, or ruck marching or something. Like, did you get in an accident? And it's like, well, fun fact, yeah, in the military. And it's like, I can tell because the way that your bones set up, X-rays, etc. But they will never write a letter to say that the military caused it. So they can see that this is not a new injury, right? They can see things have been around for a while. So that's where then the disconnect becomes hard for a veteran to be able to say, how do I now connect this back to service, right? So that's where the Nexus conversation comes into play, because we need the ability to be able to show and say, hey, how do we then now make an argument for this, right? How do we connect certain things? So that's one of the biggest things I want to encourage folks that we're going to be touching on specifically. Let me go ahead and show you all here a little kind of rundown of what we are going to be touching on. Okay, so I'm going to change this because I just want to show you this specifically. Okay, so this is the workbook that will be coming with the course. Now, I'm bringing this up because I think it's just cool to be able to at least showcase and talk about some of the things that are going to be covered. So that's me and my service dog legend there. So maybe you haven't met him before. There he is. So one of the biggest things we're going to look at, right, and this is the workbook, right? So this is literally 28 pages of some amazing stuff that we've had in store for you all. But, introduction to Nexus letters, right? Let's talk about that. And mind you, as the workshop is going, this is your document. So you're going through this. You're going through the process of filling these things out and having all the things that you need to help you go through that, right? So it's a workshop. We're working, and you have a workbook. Make sense? Gathering evidence for your Nexus letter, preparing your Nexus letter, common mistakes to avoid. After the Nexus letter is submitted, then what do we do? Conclusions, some bonus materials, and some Nexus letter examples. So really making a point to say, hey, how do we navigate this space and how do we do what we do? There's another little picture of me and Legend there, kind of chilling. But that's a little bit of the focus there of what's kind of happening, what's going to take place. So again, if you check on our website, the information there will be available to you all. The link is in the bio. But let me go ahead and catch up here on some questions very quickly. And then I'm going to bring back up the whatchamacallit, the website, just to kind of show you how to get there. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Alrighty, let's catch up on this side. Thank you all for all the questions and all of that has been coming through. Thanks for those across in different places. Thanks, Jane. I was able to finally get some of the comments kind of over, so appreciate you as well for tuning in and commenting and spending some time with us here on LinkedIn as well. So we have LinkedIn in the house. We have YouTube is in the house. We have Facebook in the house. We have TikTok in the house. Okay, so let's see here. Thanks, Brian, for answering some of the questions there. Thank you all those that answered. So with that being said and done, if you had the ability to get some information to help you not only save money and save heartache and save time, especially to make your argument either for yourself or another veteran, is that something that would be interesting to you? Is that something you'd be interested in? If so, hit me with a fire emoji so I know in the chat where we're at. So let me know if that. So fire emoji if you find value in that or would be interested in that, and give me a thumbs up if you understand conceptually what a Nexus is. And if you don't, give me a thumbs down so I can double down and give you some info for that there. So that's one of the biggest things, because I want to make sure that we're giving the right information and we're able to answer questions and support our peoples. So thank you for the questions. Thank you for the feedback. Let's see, where are we? Just catching up here. The funny thing about TikTok and stuff is we don't have the ability sometimes there to see the comments, so we have to kind of fish for them in different places. So just catching up on that. Let's see. Do, 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 do. Okay. Let's see. So, Andy, we got your questions hit there. Let's see. Shout out to Juan Kukas, 30% PTSD. Mental health can go up to 100. Yes. Still service connected. It's just at 0. Check. Okay. You saw I'm back for that. So let me catch up here a little bit further up. Thanks, George, for your questions. Let's see. Okay. Andy, my VS uploaded evidence to from my psychiatrist stating my current symptoms. Check. Do they usually do? Yeah. So if you do a whole new claim, and in your case, right? Again, depending on the time that's happened, they may well they'll definitely make a point to call back in because now there may be new information depending on the time. So that does happen as far as being called for a CMP, whether or not because it's a brand new claim, you're adding new information to it. Depending on how much time from the first claim, they may choose to do so. Let's see. Yeah, and that's one of the things, Andy, where it's like you gotta be careful sometimes. If they did a reduction, that's something we've seen a lot. We actually had a veteran who actually made a point to try to reduce her. So specifically, when we're looking at reductions, they have to give you a proposal for reduction. There has to be marked improvement. So something must have happened for them to be able to say, hey, wait a second, we're going to take this away, right? So there's a few other things to consider there. Let's see. Welcome, Andy. Appreciate having you here. 10 tinnitus, 10 back issues. Okay. They approved me. Okay, Cheryl. So they approved you for, and they took it back. Still will not get. Okay. So are you ready for PTSD specific? So in your case, Cheryl, like I said, I think that's something. I'd love you to talk to one of our advisors. Like I said, we have 2 of them who are actually MST rated themselves. So that some of those things will be a little bit more personal in nature in regard. So considering how to make the argument when it comes to MST, we're looking at markers. We're looking at a few other things for that. So it becomes very complicated because when we're looking at things like MST, for example, right, there are many instances where there are no reports. That doesn't mean that the argument can't be made. It just means we have to now consider, hey, how do you make the argument and show the markers across your life? So do you have another mental health rating as the first question? Because sometimes how they label it gets kind of crazy. They're so curious to find that out. You'd be surprised how many veterans at times actually are MST victims per se, but they're rated for other mental health conditions because of other things that have happened, but they never actually address really the core of what's been one of the main issues for them. So that's another piece to consider there. So no, Andy, not so much seeking counseling at the VA. Really, it's about if you're at the VA, right? It's looking at is there marked improvement, right? Sometimes you're at care there. There are some veterans who choose to not get any care whatsoever at the VA. That's your prerogative. There's no rule that says you have to go to the VA. I can choose to take my benefits and go to community care, go to my private providers, because maybe I don't trust that, or maybe it's too far from me, right? So the whole point is you're able to show, hey, you're still keeping up with the things you're dealing with, but in your case, right, there has to be reevaluation for them to go ahead and try to take a rating away. So is there marked improvement? Because when you get called for reevaluation, they're looking at, hey, where are you now? Has things changed and so forth? So there's a few different ways to look at that. Let's see, Coke Guy, what's going on, my brother? No, you don't have to do that, Austin. That's treatment on that side. For disabilities, like, hey, you met the criteria, the threshold, we'll reevaluate you over a period of time. Ratings can become static. So there's a few ways to kind of combat that as well. And that's some of the things that we'll talk about too at the workshop specifically. So let's see. I want to catch up here real quickly. Okay. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. What's going on, Doris? Appreciate you being here. Current service Nexus sufferers. Okay. Shoulders, knees, ankles. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I think I'm caught up now. Alrighty. Let's see. Let's see. My friend prefers that I can be the one. So Tony, that's really So that's a great point that I want to kind of hit on. My friend prefers that I be the one help him elaborate on his medical condition and service connected disabilities. Um, yeah. So, but that's so that I will say, Tony, that that speaks to a very fundamental thing, specifically when we're looking at, to your point, trust, right? And again, I'm not. Consider this: there was a there's a man who meets a woman, let's say, and they fall in love or whatever, right? Someone meets someone, they fall in love, they feel that there is trust there, and at some point there's a breach of that trust. There's a betrayal, there's a letdown, and you got to think about it, man. Maybe this person was a young, you know hopeless romantic that thought one day I would find someone, I'll be able to spend my time and my life with someone that matters to me. And this is what they look for, and they kind of had their belief system in place, and they finally find someone, and they go down this whole path, and then things happen, and before you know it, there's a letdown, there is a betrayal, there is you know a taking back of what was promised. That is something that many of us have lived, right? You've been cheated on, you've been left, you've been dumped, you've been let down, right? Relationships, friendships, and so forth. I'm saying this because at the root of us as veterans in service, it's all about trust, right? Trusting the person to your left and to your right. And then, right, it's cute that the VA updated their mission statement to go from what Abraham Lincoln put in front of the building, pretty much, right? It's as far as, the care for those that are born, the wounds of war and their widows and what have you, to now also caregivers. And all, it's all cute words. But like Bruce Lee said, guess what? Boards don't hit back. Words are nice. New mission statement. What does that mean with everybody here who's still denied? What does that mean to rebuild trust? Words are nice, but action speaks differently. So, Tony, specifically to you, as far as having someone who, you know, they trust you. That's what it comes down to. Your friend trusts you. It's hard to trust a system that has let you down. It's hard to trust a system that you saw that your grandfather fought and never was able to successfully beat. How many family members do we have who've served who literally have died waiting for their ratings? So that's the facts. How many, supposed people that were supposed to help never called you back? Or that lawyer who said you don't have an argument and they don't get back to you, or VSOs who are overwhelmed, or quite frankly, don't care, or are inept, or private companies that are predatory in nature. The fact of the matter is, it's brought in apples everywhere. Trust. Your friend trusts you. That's something huge. And the VA sadly has broken trust. I don't care what the daggone mission statement is. There's a trust issue, right? There was supposed to be this concept of I signed a contract, I went into service fine, everything was on point. And then over the years, what ended up happening was that I left service a little different than I walked in. And now when I'm going to seek care, I feel like I'm being made to be a liar. I have to go through all these hoops to speak a language that makes no sense to me. All I know is I didn't have these issues when I joined the service, and why the hell do I have to feel like I'm begging for care? Why am I made to feel like I'm begging for what I rightfully have earned? I served and did my time, and things happen in service. And some of us, not all of us, but some of us walked away with a lot of traumatic events and things that have jaded us. So I'd invite you all to start thinking it from the perspective that there was a contract signed and a warranty that's been voided, and now we traverse the VA with literally no understanding of the process. So when we're looking at VA claims, when we're looking at these issues, right, we have to consider that there are gaps of information. So these workshops, right? These classes, these lives, these videos, I'll make stuff to poke you. It's damn near end of March almost, and you still haven't started an intent to file. You were going to get on your claim last December. It's March. Guess what? January, February, March. That's 3 months of benefits you're not going to get back had you won. Get your intent to file there. Make the process, make a point to start advocating for yourself and speaking up and do your due diligence. But to Tony's point, when you have a veteran who just doesn't trust other people, it's like, well, it's hard when you keep getting screwed all the time, when you literally don't have recourses in place, right? So as far as your friend preferring to speak to you, that's something that has to be cherished, but then being able to share with them things like this. That's why we're holding space. Literally, there's better things I could be doing at this time of the day, you know? But we choose to do this. We choose to spend extra time. We choose to answer questions. We choose to show up. Because at the end of the day, I get it. Things may be posted on official websites, but nobody's going on those websites. Nobody's on these pages. So we got to come where veterans are at. So that's why we come to TikTok. That's why we come to these social media platforms, and we're across different places to find and have this conversation and say, hey, I understand. So thank you for sharing that, Tony, because I think it's a huge piece of the conversation of things that we have to look at there for sure. Let's see. The guy called out. Let me see. Who do we have? Who do we have here? Who do we have here? Help me understand. Krause's house. I'm trying to think who the name is. It escapes me just the way they come up. So now it's gonna be eating at me. Who is Krause's house? So now I'm trying to put things together. So I think I know who you are, but let's see, Krause's house. This guy called out my soul the first time I had the privilege to meet him through EXP. You talking about me? Did I do that? Um, let's see. Catch up on some comments here. Been waiting on mine for almost 2 years. They're still getting records. Okay, that could be something there, especially when you look at duty to assist or claims that are not fully developed, right? So FTC claims, fully developed claims, a whole other conversation there. Let's see. Dun 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 dun. Thank you again, Tony, for sharing that. Thanks, Coke Guy, for sharing that as well. The names always kill me, so I'm trying to figure out who is Coke Guy. Just because first names kind of stand out. Aloha, what's going on, Christian? Um, yeah. There's a whole lot of Jane. There's a whole lot, literally. Like I'm literally we're on TikTok also, so there's like 30 people over there and all these other questions and literally just the baseline. It's almost like we have to start at number one. But that's also on the list of things. So we did our VA claims crash course workshop this coming Wednesday. We're doing our free webinar for uh, VA VA claims orientation webinar, like a 101 type of thing. So the link for that is in my bio as well. We did a VA claims crash course that was very successful. Where we kind of went over all those things, went A to Z, and then now the next one coming up is our Nexus letter workshop, talking Nexus letters. So, but yes, let's see. Okay, Racing Rob. I've been recently fired 2 times after. So Racing Rob. So and that's so when was that 50% awarded? Because that's the thing that's also hard for many veterans, where it's like you may have got a rating, but you don't want to poke the bear. That's incorrect. That you should never. People should not look at things like that. If things are getting worse, you have to speak up. We have to make a point to talk about what's going on, because you're literally saying what's happening in your life, and depending on where you've been at, your symptoms may be getting worse. You know. So, thank you, Jane. So we have the point here now of how do we tell that story of things that have got worse, right? Um, let's see. Local VSO, and some technology oriented would like to become. Yeah, Tony, and that's the whole thing, and that's why we do this, right? Literally having this conversation. You look at my page, you see the things that we're sharing specifically, across social. TikTok has been one of the biggest places where we're seeing a lot of transitioning veterans. You got to think about this. I brought this up the other day. This is where is what I want to bring up here. Whoops. Let's see. Oh, okay, yeah. What's going on, my brother? It took me a second, so that's why I have to ask sometimes, because everybody has like their usernames and stuff, so it always throws me off. Where is what I wanted to show very quickly? Do. So this is me and one of our vets. Let me bring up Dennis, because I always like to bring it up. So this is Dennis. He is 80 years old, going on 81. It took him 50 years to file a claim. Vietnam veteran, Army like me as well, and my service dog legend. This is us on one of our meetups in Colorado a few weeks back. And I'm showing this because when you start to look at being an ambassador, being able to talk, being able to speak up for vets, being able to build that trust, these are the type of things that we have to try to begin to create for our folks. And what's good here is we have the ability to do this virtually. So when we're looking at, veterans, for example, who want to be supportive, but they don't know, how do you build that trust? Well, you got to think about it, right? How long did it take Dennis to finally get to the point of filing his claim? 50 years. And he just went to 100, let's say, a few weeks ago. I'm saying this not because of just Dennis, but saying that his story doesn't have to be your story. It doesn't have to be the story of these veterans that are transitioning right now. There's so many veterans, that, for example, are transitioning out now and showing up now and asking the questions now because you don't want to repeat this. You don't want to be like your uncle. You don't want to be like grandpa and so forth. So my whole point is that we have the ability to not make it to where you have to wait 50 years. If you have waited 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, it's not impossible. But having these conversations, Tony, to your point, becoming that beacon of trust and helping other veterans, that helps us to begin the process of solving these problems, of rebuilding trust in a sadly trustless system in so many ways. So there's good people out there, and against the whole thing, I'm not, you'll never see me bash folks. I'll give it to everybody. I think there's good people out there, but conversely, I think there's also people who are lacking in so many ways, who are just not, it's a job. They punch in, they punch out. After 5, they're done. There's a waiting list, or whatever case may be. So you're either going to pay with time or money. Do the math. Pick your choice. Good VSOs out there, VSOs who should be better. Good lawyers out there, lawyers who should be better. Private companies who are out there, companies that should be better, right? So that's why we're here having these conversations and sharing these different things, because we need options. We need the ability to have these conversations, and this is what the things that we'll be talking about consistently and over. So when we start to look at, what's on the docket, what's coming up, again, it's, hey, we see people here constantly asking questions. So let's go ahead and start answering the question. So we start to do that. How? We put together a workshop, because it's the question that comes up, right? The Nexus letters, what are they? The keys to winning your VA claim for many veterans. It's what's missing. If you've been denied and the VA has said something to you along the lines that we recognize that you have a disability, but it's not service connected, that connection's missing. So how do you make the argument? How do you make a more successful point to make your statement to the VA? But again, I will tell you all that this is a tool. Please hear me, right? So the first thing I said is, one, there's a difference, obviously, where we're looking at disabilities have to be medical conditions. But then secondly, we have to consider that when we're having this conversation about VA claims, it's not welfare. It's not asking for a handout. It's making a legitimate request to things that are now impaired. If you rent a vehicle and you ding it up, you must pay insurance, right? That's the reason where you've served and now you have things that are lingering post-service. How do we talk about that? So I mentioned the fact that this right here, yes, it's a great workshop. I'm biased because I'll be teaching it. So there's that part with the crew. And this workshop, workbook, it's going to be amazing. But these are tools, is my point. And we have to go back to a military mentality that it's not the weapon system. It's the warrior. It's the sailor. It's the airman. It's the soldier. It's the Marine. It's the coastie, right? It's that person that's wielding the machine. It's not the aircraft. It's the pilot. It's not the Nexus letter. It's the veteran understanding how to use said resources. Not just filing a claim and seeing what sticks. No. We come from a place of professionalism, strategy. You don't have 10 things to claim. If we have 3 solid things, fight for those 3 solid things. And then you may have an argument for secondary claims, right? Do you know that you can have a claim for something that's service connected, but then that service connected left knee has caused issues and now your gait is off and now your right knee has taken an impact, but that right knee isn't service connected. It's connected to the left knee, which is service connected. Now you have a secondary claim. Or because of your chronic pain, you're taking medication now to be able to deal with that pain. And that's caused now GERD, secondary claim. You're on migraine medication has caused IBS issues, what have you. So you see what I'm saying? So you have to understand how to construct things, not just, hey, see what happens, because you're seeing what happens, which is denials. Let's just change the narrative. So let's give our veterans the tools to make informed decisions. If you find an organization where they can do some exercise to help you, great. But let's have a conversation about before you even go and do anything. Where are you? What are you dealing with? Back to Tony's point. Let's talk about trust, because you can't just go in there and put a claim in for MST if you don't even understand how to talk about the fact that you have to go a little bit backwards to take assessment of where you're at now. Again, it's not just only what happened in service. Everybody here got paid for service. Your DD 214 is the proof. That's your receipt. However, post-service, you have things that are lingering, things that are impairing you, things that are disabling to you. And now that conversation has to happen. So understanding how we're making that connection, how we're making those arguments, that's the key to all this. So when we're looking at a Nexus letter, it's how do we piece those things together, but we have to get a veteran in a place to understand first what they're dealing with. So it's not what happened to you, it's what's happening to you. It's not what you experience in service as much as what you're experiencing today, because many a times you have veterans who go in and have something to point to in service, but they don't speak about what's happening now. You're not going to get ready for migraines if all you're talking about is what happened in service. What about now? Talk to me about what you're dealing with at the current moment. Okay. So I want to make a point to make sure that, that kind of clicks for folks, because I think it's important to be able to hit on that. I'm also going to bring up the CFR because, again, it's not just us talking. It's also us showing and educating the various ways of how things are done. Thanks to the crew for holding it down. This is kind of cool. We have a whole bunch of folks from different places, so that is pretty good. And it's funny. So on TikTok, we have Nayeli, who's in the chat as well. She was a VSO, and actually speaks to that as well. Let's see. And so this is a great point that I also want to bring up. So I want to thank Jane on LinkedIn for actually bringing this up, because I think it is a very valid point. The fact is, not all VSOs and advocates are good, right? So we have to report them, not just, hey, this happened and I'm not going to say anything, because the problem is if we don't report and we don't speak up, then somebody else has to deal with this. So we have to get into the place of how do we speak about the things that we're dealing with or the bad experiences that we have experienced, so that other folks don't experience them as well. So this is a very, very valid point that we also do talk about, because again, there are some good ones, but we have to report the bad ones. So that is a huge point that has to be put there. So let me pull up very quickly here. Let's see. I want to make sure I can. So I want to bring up. Okay. But you'd be surprised how many veterans just are unaware that they have the ability to speak up. They have the ability to, not just stay quiet, but to actually be able to speak up, because it is your right. So let's see here. Let's see here. Okay. All right. So let's, I want to jump over very quickly to our website and show that. So let's go ahead and jump over there. For the TikTok crew, this is kind of cool. This is a little bit on the backside of how that looks. So appreciate all the folks kind of commenting there. So you have like an infinity loop there. So I'll take that out, because it's going to drive you crazy as it keeps doing that over and over. But um, but yeah, links in bio, veteransnetwork.club. And again, there's a series of questions here, but really take inventory, take a look at it. Because the fact is, if you're struggling, right, to make the connection between your condition and military service, then this is the class that you may want to attend. This is the workshop to have a conversation, to be able to say, okay, hey, what am I dealing with, right? Because you're looking at not only some of the benefits from winning your claim, but for you, what is it? We asked a question a few weeks ago. What is it that, for example, is the focus for someone? For some people, it's a financial stability, because that disability rating has, let's say, a compensation. Some veterans are literally out of work, like some folks said, been fired, all these different things. For others, it's medical care, and for others, quality of life. And there's nothing wrong as things shift, or maybe dependent care and benefits. So the fact is, we need to have the ability to realize that for some people, no, they need financial stability right now. Other veterans, look, forget the financial stability and forget the compensation. I need that medical care for these conditions that I'm rated for, or quality of life, right? And we're asking you here a series of different questions that may sound like you. And, again, take a look at it, because it's really one of those things where these are the things that we're seeing that veterans are dealing with in some shape, fashion, or form. So we're going to be going over things. We're going to have a conversation. There's a workbook that comes with the course as well. When we start to look at, hey, how do we, make this argument to the VA, right? And here, for example, we have the workbook that comes with this workshop. So I'll pull up the current one. This is version 1. But again, really looking at, hey, how are we making these arguments? What are the things that we have to make to the VA? So, all right, so let me switch back here, and I want to catch up. So that's some of the stuff that's happening there. Let me put my handy dandy little background, because it's cool to do that here. Let me do that. There you go. Bum, 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 bum. All right. So I'll put that there, because that is one of the main points that we're talking about. All right. Let me catch up on some of the comments here. Appreciate everybody for hanging out, asking questions, and getting some answers. Okay, let's see. Okay. Let me switch. Thanks. I just got that, Brian. Thanks. For some reason, I know I had it downloaded, but how are you, Design 2? All right, so let me pull up the current one here. I got yelled at the last time I was pulling stuff off from online, so I was like, I'm not touching anything. But I have the current one, so I will show that one. Because, and again, it's cool because literally it's been a few reps to kind of get to this point. So I'm really happy with where we're at with things, but it's going to be dope. Doop, 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 doop. All right, let's see. Okay, so we got that one up. Let me go back to this and show the current one. All right, so bum, 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 bum. Okay, so we are back. Okay, let me see. Okay, so I just want to kind of zoom in here a little bit, so kind of show it a little bit better. All right, so hopefully you guys can see this pretty decently. So this is the workshop that goes with the dun 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 with the workshop that we're doing. Let me go ahead and switch over here. Design 2. Appreciate you. Thank you. Are very welcome. Alrighty. So this is kind of again going down a little message there from the crew. But again, when we look at the things that we're covering, things that are in this here workbook, right? We're doing again intro to Nexus letters, gathering evidence for your Nexus letter, preparing your Nexus letter, common mistakes to avoid. After the Nexus letter is submitted, what's the plan of action? Conclusion, bonus resources and material along with Nexus letter samples that will be there. So this is one of those things there that goes with the workshop that we're doing. And again, over at veteransnetwork.club, we're hitting on the very top there. You see the links in my bio as well for these workshops. So a lot of good resources there, which questions are always abounding, but just wanted to at least kind of show this. And then let me get back to some of the questions. Okay, let's see. Let me catch you back up. Alrighty, let's see. 13MP for migraines, Triple H. Tension headaches, not migraines. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Lane says, please put in your intent to file. I got back 34K on Monday. I'm telling you, intent to file. People, look, it's not a joke. It may take you a while to file that claim, but trust me, you will not regret if you get some back pay action. So I'm just saying. Let's see. Catch up on that. But congratulations, my brother. Lending you $3. Let's see. Let's see. Well, and that's awesome. So conversely, things get better. Things get better. That's, you know what I mean? So it goes up, it goes down. So I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, you know? Let's see. Active duty, 13 years. I've met board process, QTC eval at the moment. Okay, check, Saga. Okay. Retire 30 June. Check, Christian. Okay. Yeah, so Texas Pete, that's, so questions like, hey, and this is one of the things where I'm big on saying not everybody's 100%. The reality is there's many reasons and things that may be happening. So specifically, if you look at your case, right, you may have not had issues in service about a back pain, etc., but now you do. So things get worse. So I'm saying that because sometimes veterans think like, oh, you file a claim, you could be leaving service and you may not get a high rating. That's fine. Maybe you're 30, maybe you're 10, maybe you're 20. But things get worse over time. So you can file, you can go for increases. Something that may have been bothering you, let's say, as much in service, but over time, things do get worse. So there's an argument to be made, right? So it's not uncommon. Cover unit just got my ratings. Oh, congratulations, Karen. Let's see. Yes. So as far as folks that are transitioning, the biggest thing is begin to really document things, begin to speak up for yourself, begin to advocate, go get seen, go to the doctor. If things are bothering you, begin to speak about that. And I understand that there's also mission readiness and all these different things. But if you're in that last year, you're in that sunset type of window there. You really want to start getting seen. You really want to get things looked at. It's not normal that you're crapping your pants literally every 3 hours. You have IBS, you may have GERD, you may have migraines, you may have degenerative disc disease, you may have all these other issues and bad knees, missing cartilage, patella tendonitis, migraines, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, PTSD, depression, anxiety. There's so many things. But my point is, begin to get seen, begin to speak up for yourself, because you begin to build that for you, which makes the process much better, because you want to be able to have your records so that when you file your claim, you're able to file a fully developed claim. You're given the VA everything they need. I don't want y'all to look for anything. I already did that. Here you go, right? So that's the biggest thing I would say. Start getting seen, start documenting things, and take inventory of what you're dealing with. Yep, medical evidence is a big one. Which again, back to the workshop. So you'd be surprised. There are instances where there is just lacking, evidence for a veteran making an argument, but there's other ways, that things can be pieced together, right? So that's working a little bit backwards at times and having to supplement things, getting seen now, strong nexus to be able to argue, where are we? Because the fact is, you may have not complained, for example, about knee issues, but with 200 jumps and no cartilage and the pain you have now, doctor's like, man, this is insane. You know, you're 40 and your knees look like you're 80, right? There's an argument to be made there, even though you never complained in service about your knee, right? Let's see. So hopefully that helps there. Appreciate you, brother. Um, yep, 100% Karen. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. So Vincent, I would say if you have a Nexus letter that you want, submit it online. You can walk with it to a CMP, but really go online. That's one of the biggest things I'm big on. You don't want to just hand things to a CMP examiner because remember these are contracted officials that sometimes they don't even know how to do their own damn job, let alone to upload stuff in your claims. So specifically to you, I'd say you can still add that file online, right? As that's happening. When is your CMP specifically? So that's a great question. So I wanted to at least highlight that. And for those who don't know, tomorrow we're doing our Friday Night Live show. So we're live tomorrow with the crew. So Brian and Amy and myself, we will be live and we're talking claims, a little bit of everything, a little more kind of laid back. So tune in for that tomorrow night. So that's the answer for that question. No, you're fine, Jane. Let's see here. It's on Jane's side. Our veteran who is sick. It's always expanded presumptive list. Yep. Yep. 100%. So, and that's another thing too, this expansion of these benefits like pack hacks. So to James' point, we're looking at now instances where like there are benefits out there that veterans just do not know. They're not claiming these things and they're staying on the table. So the fact of the matter is you're not taking from anyone in any shape, fashion, or form, anything, because the fact of the matter is, you know, there's enough, you know, that they've allotted for these things and benefits for veterans there. So, so again, you know, 100 same, you know, Jane pretty much says the same thing on our side of the house that we've kind of said. Oh, what happened? Oh, crap. Let's see. Let's see what happened here. Oh, we got a froze situation. All right, got a little freeze on there. So let's see what happened. But yes, anyone who has in any shape, fashion, or form, do not give documents to an examiner. You don't want that to be the case. So that's a big one there. Let me see. Got a internet thing here. So let's see.